Hi guys, this is Hiro, and today I'm going to be discussing the D9 or the Navamsa chart. Okay, so one thing to realize is that if you've watched my videos, you may or may not notice I tend to coin the signs or the houses in groups of 4. Okay, so that's 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and 9 to 12. Each of these sections represent a fire to water sign. Okay, so there's 3 sections of water to fire signs. Now 9 through 12 is the last section, you can say, of water to fire sign or fire to water signs in the zodiac. Okay, now D9 has a lot to do with the 9th house. So what do you notice about this section of 9 to 12? Well, 9 to 12, it's all owned by Jupiter and Saturn. Okay, the two most, you could say, arguably 2 of the very most powerful planets when it comes to your spiritual development. Okay, this whole 9th to 12th house period represents, spiritual development and karmic fulfillment. Okay, and I'm gonna explain to you in a reason why I'm talking about this. So Jupiter owns a 9th and it also owns a 12th, and the 9th house is Jupiter's preferred house. Okay, and Jupiter is like the greatest benefic of the whole zodiac. It can really lead you to enlightenment quickly. Okay, so or spiritual development overall quickly. So the 9th house, you could say, it's not only is it a trine and one of the best in general houses of the zodiac, but it has a very, very strong role in that last section of the zodiac of 9 to 12. Okay, it really sets the tone for your karmic fulfillment and ultimately you're letting go and detachment. So before I get started a little bit more, one other reason why the D9 is so important is because there's 27 nakshatras in the whole zodiac, right? And each nakshatra is divided into 4 parts or 4 padas. So that equals 108 padas in the whole zodiac. And there's 12 signs. So each sign has exactly 9 padas in it, okay? So the D9 chart is each sign divided into 9 parts. So it exactly tells you what's happening from pada to pada in each sign, which is very, very, very spiritually important. And as astrology is a spiritual science, this is showing a lot of what's happening. If you value, some people don't value the D9 as much because they don't, they have no spiritual or a minimal spiritual inquisitiveness. Okay, but if you do, this thing is very important. Now, what does the 9th house represent? The 9th house represents, like you could say, everything you learn in this life, but you could say mostly the spiritual or religious stuff you learn in this life. Okay, now one quick thing. Okay, I personally use the D9 for a whole host of things. Like I'd look at it very generally, not for anything specific. And I'm gonna explain why in a second. But the scriptures look at the D9, or they say that D9 can show, marriage or good marriage if you read it. So, if you read some of those old texts. So why do they say this? Well, a huge part of, learning in this life or spiritual development can have a lot to do with marriage, right? Your partner can show you a lot. You can learn a lot from your partner about, themselves, other people, yourself, okay? All humans are a reflection of us at the deepest core spiritual level. So that partner is kind of showing you your own flaws, through themselves, you could say. Okay, this has a little deeper component to it, but this is why, in my opinion, that they connect the D9 chart to marriage, because the biggest lesson in life can be shown through marriage, because you're seeing that person all the time. Okay, you're learning from that person constantly for years and years and years on end. Okay, so that's why they say, I think that D9 is to be used a lot for marriage, which I think is true. Now, that the scriptures also generalize a little bit, okay? That doesn't mean that it can only be used for marriage, okay? So it can be used for everything, because everything kind of involves, you can learn something from every situation. That's how I view it, okay? So that's why I look at it a little bit more generally and not just for marriage. Now, but you can use it for marriage. Now, might have heard me say in other videos that any divisional chart is showing the result of what's happening from the D1 chart. So the D1 chart is the physical placements of the planet. It is showing what is happening on the physical. Everything that is happening is shown from the D1 chart. There's nothing around this. Okay, there's no shortcut around this. But the results of everything are shown from the divisional chart. So the results related to 10th house stuff of, you can say, like karmic fulfillment that the 10th house represents is shown from the 10th house. Okay. The 7th house stuff, which you could say is just, deeper relations with other people and like how you really feel internally, is shown from the D7 chart. Now the D9 chart is showing at a deeper level what you're constantly, learning from the situations in your life spiritually. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So I'm going to give you an example. So let's just say you have Sun in Leo in the D1, and in the D9, you have Sun in Libra. So Sun in the D1, it's in its own sign, which is great. And in the D9, it's debilitated in Libra. So what this can show is, on the surface, the Sun represents, or could represent, like identity or ego, right? It's kind of, who you are. So on the surface, the Sun is getting, I'm speaking in general, okay? Not everyone who has Sun in Leo is going to have this. But you could say on the surface, Sun in Leo, it could be getting, a lot of the attention that it wants, which is great, right? But in the D9 chart, because it's in Libra, it's constantly, questioning, is this attention enough? All this attention I'm getting, what is everyone thinking about me? Okay, this is showing the spiritual result. Okay, the D1 chart is showing what's happening on the surface. So some people only care what's happening on the surface, right? Like not too many, like someone who's not that spiritually minded. So this attention could be great. It doesn't matter if they're super insecure on the inside. As long as I'm kind of getting what I want on the, my attention I want on the outside, I'm fine. But anybody that's a little bit more spiritually minded can see that could, lead to a huge problem in your spiritual development, okay? Now, we're getting back to this example. The D9 chart, the Sun in Libra, Sun's debilitated in Libra for a reason, right? It's like, it's constantly, wondering, like, am I good enough? Is the is the validation I'm receiving genuine? All these kind of, thoughts related to, your identity revolving around the other people are going to be coming in at a deeper spiritual level. So that is going to be a spiritual obstacle for you, okay, to learn in this lifetime. That's one thing that the D9 can show, okay? But if you have that, well, something like that is going to affect everyone, okay? Because Sun is just such an important planet and stuff. But at a general sense, that's kind of what the D9 shows, okay? So if you don't care, or if you only care what's happening at the surface, then yeah, sure, only look at the D1. The D9, I mean, if you want to live your life, super insecure, like for example, in this situation, and you don't care, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, but I'm telling you the reasons of how to look at it from this perspective. So that's an example of like stuff going good at the surface, but bad at the D9, right? So for example, also like, I'll take another, pretty material planet so you guys can, relate to the analogy better. If Venus is kind of placed pretty well in the D1, you could have like a lot of like, let's just say it's in Taurus in D1 and it's in Virgo in D9, right? So in own sign, and then in debility in D9. Own sign D1, debilitated D9, Venus. Okay, so Venus and Taurus, you could be enjoying a lot of the luxuries and stuff like that, on the surface, but on the inside, you're constantly wondering, you're constantly thinking about still the things you don't have, how you can get more, blah blah blah. This is something, okay, so you can kind of see why some people value the D9 more than the D1, because if that spiritual element, you're still in a place of lack or in a place of like not feeling whole, okay, you're still not gonna, it's still not gonna end well for you most likely, okay, without a lot of learning, okay. That's why people with a lot of debilitated planets could potentially, turn very spiritual, because those debilitated lessons, teach them a lot throughout life, and eventually they move past it. Okay, that was one of their, things that they were meant to, deal with in this lifetime, and I hope they overcome it. Now, I gave you an example of that, but let's flip the roles. Okay, so let's just say the planet is really bad in the D1 and good in the D9, right? So let's take the example of Venus. Let's just say it's debilitated in D1, and it's and it's pretty well placed in the D9, right? So on the D1, it's like that Venus, it's not getting the things that it wants, okay? But at the D9, because it's well placed, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm still able to enjoy what I have, regardless of, you know, on the surface, it recognizes that you know, your Venus is not getting, you know, the things it wants, right? Whether it's, you know, it owns on the surface, it still owns Taurus and Libra, so it could not be getting, you know, the relationships you want. This is all I'm speaking in general. Okay, you have to look at the chart. Could not be getting, you know, the luxuries you want, but inside it's like you're still able to. And it depends on where it is in D9. Okay, if Venus is in Virgo in the let's just say it's in Virgo in the D1 and then Taurus in the D9. Okay, so it's like it's still able to appreciate the luxuries it has at an internal D9 level. Okay, so I hope that kind of made sense, what I was saying in this video. So this is the way I look at it. There's a lot of theories on how, you know, you should, quote unquote, or should not interpret the D9. I would recommend that, you know, you go inside, okay, remember what I've always said, that, you know, your own intuition is kind of like connecting to the spiritual internet. Okay, so the more you go inside and the more you connect with the higher consciousness, the more it'll start speaking to you, and the more it'll start speaking to you, and you'll be able to kind of figure out the energies of all the charts, signs, and planets, you know, more holistically than you would just obtaining information in any other way. Okay, because like I said, astrology is a spiritual science, so it connects a lot with your Jupiterian energies, not your Mercury energies. Okay, so you want to enhance your Jupiterian energies, which is like, you know, doing the meditation and, you know, stuff like that, rather than the Mercury energies, which is like, you know, trying to just look for information, like as much scraps of information to put two and two together. Okay, so I hope that made sense. And like I said, you know, it's okay if your awareness keeps expanding, and, you know, slowly over time you discover more subtleties about certain charts, planets, or signs, or something like that, and, you know, how you look at things constantly keeps expanding and is dynamic, and, you know, possibly changing your understanding of things. That's okay. And just remember, you know your chart inside better than anybody else. Okay, no matter how experienced they are, if you connect with your own spiritual intuition enough. Okay, so I'd just leave off on that message. So just go within, so you can understand, you know, more genuinely what's going on, because you know your chart better than anybody else at a deeper soul level. Okay, you decided all this before you even took birth. Okay, so I think that's all on this topic for me today. So if you guys have any questions or comments, as usual, you can always let me know. And until next time, talk to you guys later. Thank you.